Okay, welcome to the classes webinar here today, and thank you for joining us from all around the world. I'm Perioral Wu from South Korea now, and I'm very excited to introduce a new perioral rejuvenation technique of my own using Ultra Format 3 and my injectables. So let me start with the first slide. Today's agenda is we will go have a lectures and a very short lecture in the very brief, and we will go to have a hands-on session for the live session demos, and we will have a frequently asked questions and any kind of questions for us. So please don't hesitate to leave your messages, to leave your comments and questions on the chatting window. I am a chief medical officer of the classes company, and I'm also running my clinic in South Korea in the Naum Dermatologist clinic. And I'm very happy to see online my friends and my colleagues. We don't have chances to meet each other, see each other. I hope that this COVID crisis will end very, very soon. We all know that the aging process, as we age, and from infancy, we have a different kind of skin arrangement and the skin matrix structures. Usually, to the center lines and to the pupil lines crossing vertically the face, you can see it that drooling laterally and downward, we have that kind of actions according our age. So the most important factors when we are doing the perioral rejuvenation is how we can make volume replacement first, and secondly, how we can tighten the skin to maintain the kind of volume replacement, and also if we have a serious problems with the bony changes like the oral cavities or other kind of metal structures, you can see that this kind of a volume replacement cannot be done with just skin tightening. So we will combine volume replacement and volume augmentation by the ED and also the skin tightening. So basically, we are going for the multiple layer approaches and the multiple purpose approaches together. There are some certain consideration before we start, and you can see that this kind of drooling structures, including all of the soft tissues and all of the skin, we can see that the landmark lines with the major labial fold and the podophragals and the superficial, the parallel lines, meridional line from the angularly to the mandibles, and also there will be more and more this kind of lines will be prominent, and most importantly, this kind of deep groove is according to the surgical or aesthetic unit changes, but also this kind of the superficial or the mid-dermal kind of grooves or the wrinkles is it depends on how much of our photoaging or other kind of the wrinkles in groups of these. So for skin tightening and for the resurfacing techniques, we can go through this area. But in these sections, we will go for the very gentle, the minimally approaching, minimally invasive techniques of using injectables, very soft injectables, and the not so deep approaching the high food. And also, we will have two main structures but we don't want to interrupt in the facial artery branches from the cervical artery and also the marsomandibular branch of the facial. Usually, it is going over the 1.5 to 2 centimeters from the mandibular angles for each. So usually, it is covered with the parotid gland posterior part of the inferior part. So usually we don't touch them, but Be careful if you're using the tumescent anesthesia or tumescent solutions because it will diffuse a lot of heat inside more. So if you have multiple passes or more energies inside, usually always we have a risk for that. So we will show you and I will share my experience to avoid that kind of damages of the hands-on time. We have a different kind of approaches. We have a chemical innovation, we're using the Botox, and we have soft tissue fillers, we have multiple weapons with the EBD energy devices, but nowadays we don't use just a single modality for all kind of purposes of demands. So using these kind of weapons all together, we can achieve the victory over the aging process work. So today we will show you I will show you about how you use the MF2 is a 2 millimeter depth with a very sharp the quad vision channels inside. So we will show you how we can approach the very narrow angles and the precise kind of the approaches for the perioral approaches. And we will add some of the decoration for the injectables. Usually, we will use a different kind of the fillers today, and it will be used for the lip shaping, because if you are changing the contours of the lines, usually we have different kinds of approaches for the perioral movement. So we will go for the beautiful lips. You can see that the very standardized the beauty of the standard of beauty, but usually it should be customized upon the patient, the demand and the patient's the taste. So today we have a beautiful candidate, and we will show you which kind of points will make her more beautiful. And usually, when we have a more sagged and more to the patient's skin, we can see that these jaw lines is also problematic. But usually, if you are using the jawline filler only, we will have the non-tightened skin. And if you just to make a overcompensation for these kind of jawline fillers, usually we don't have a not so good result for that. So today we will go for the firstly with the deeper portion tightening, and secondly we will go the middle layer of the skin tightening, erasing their small wrinkles, and finally we'll go for the small contouring, the point approaches for the more harmonized results. Usually we have a different kind of occlusion types. When we have the maloclusion type with the chin is protruded, usually that kind of the malocclusion has some benefits that we don't have a much of the during upon the aging. But if we have a more common malocclusion type 2, we have a smaller size of the cheekbone, and we will have just the depressed and going backward when we are aging for that. So we have a thinner lips going on, and we have a dual skin going on, and we are going the backward thing on. So we will have a more gummy smiles and more the backward and the how can you say that, the more prominent the vertical lines and the transverse lines and the oblique lines all together. So we will go for any kind of this malocclusion can be corrected with some of the approaches altogether. And I think it will be also important for the South Asian patients and also the forest patients also together. Post-treatment care, we don't need much of the attention for that. Usually they take care of any kind of a possible symptoms of the nerve injury is number one we have to consider. But if there is not, usually the combination of the injectables today and the combination of the precise depth approaches with the HIFU usually don't make any kind of side effects, longer lasting than the other kind of ablative treatment or other kind of resurfacing treatment. So usually the small amount of the poison redness is also negligible, but if there is some kind of other kind of symptoms, usually neurologic symptoms within 24 hours, it should be checked and it should be maintained and managed from by the experts. Let's skip on this. So this is the background of today's treatment. So we're gonna show you how we can design first and how we're gonna make the combination treatment right to this. 좀 보셔도 될 것 같아요. So we have a beautiful lady here, and her complaints or the concern about her face is she has some pretty cute looking images for her contours, but usually the tendencies among the Korean young women is more sharp contours compared to her old lady. So we will go for the checking for the coverages here, and so we will go with 5 by 5 how we can design for that. So we will remove the local analysis anesthesia first from this slide. And if you have any questions or comments or hearing problems or the connectivity problems, you can just make a chatting or type in the chatting window. We will manage it for them. We prefer ultra 3 with a 3 millimeter depth handpiece, and the secondary the ML2 newly designed handpiece with 2 millimeter depth. And another thing is we prepare some injectables with a low G values were thin and soft fillers for pre-gels and a little bit thicker, and the volume changes on the chin and the lips. Usually the lip lines. Okay, we're starting to remove them here. The smart tip is if you are using the buzz like this, you can remove the numbing cream surfactant. Okay, because we don't have a firstly, this one is a 3 millimeter handpiece, similar tip, and we will go through this way. And firstly, we will go for the before we are going to the whole lines of the whole sessions. We are gonna do that some of the designs. We can check some of the landmarks here. We can see that the DAO, the difference angular resource here, and you can see the marginal mandible angles. And if I go to the hip I 보세요. say R and E and 뻑하는 the speed, you can see the margins of the for the masseters, and usually the pocket gland will be like this. So usually the mandibular angles with a 2 mm here, this one is something to be avoided. But one tip is if you just pitch up like this, you can see beautifully avoid any kind of marginal mandibular branch injuries. But usually the combination and the collection of all the quadrants spot for the vertebral part of the angular uh, portion of the marginal mandibular branch, it is very unlucky kind of condition, but usually it is not happening all the way. So O 한번 해보시겠어요? Say O, you can see that some of the vertical lines here, and usually the 한번 해보시죠. 징그러울 때. Sorry. Say when you see that some of the cross kind of things, you can see that some of the vertical lines here. So usually with E 한번 해보시겠어요? E, with this kind of narrow occlusion type 2, we have a depression here and here. And so when we can use the injectables to make a compensation like this, usually we can expect a more younger looking ages, but it is a matter of the taste. So you can see how we consult first with the patient which kind of images that she wants. So we're going to all the way with the shooting first. 고개가 조금만 돌려줄 수 있어요? 감사합니다. 네. So we'll talk number 3 with 3 millimeters. Because we have the lines, I think all of you know that the line comes only here to here, and the central portion of the hand. So you can see that this one should be going to the as possible as we can. We have to take it for contact, the vertical contact here, and show first one. Usually we are going to that way of the parallel motion like this. You can see that the blinking lights, maybe you cannot hear the sounds properly, but you can see in a vertical movement is up on the face. But sometimes if we are checking the count shots properly, usually we are going to that ways with calculating all the way down before we treat the measurement of the how we go far. But usually this one is pitched 1 to 1.5 millimeter. So if you are going to how many lines you are taking, we can reversely calculate the portion of the we treated at the moment. So this is quite fast. I mean, comparing to the other kind of HIFU devices, usually we have a more fast treatment, then it will reduce the patient discomfort, including pain and the flattening the condition. So we are on to the second pass for that. Usually using this, I think you can see that I have a 1 finger length on my own. It's around the 9 millimeter. You can 9 centimeters. Sorry, and you can see that for these sections, the 3 millimeter first, you will go for the 50 to 70 lines first. 괜찮으세요? I'm just asking her if she's okay, and she answered she's okay. If the patient is very sensitive to the pain, you can apply some of the numbing cream first, but Some of the patients don't want that, and some of the patients really want that. So before we start, we can check them. And if you have the approaches of the lines of the intermediate shape, you can have the superficial portion and the deep portion. So if we are making the high pressure down, usually it comes with a full or a more a deeper portion of the coagulation jump. If it comes to the way, usually we have more hollows in the below the jangoma. So usually I don't like that for my patients demand, but if you are going for that way, please consider the images the patient wants. And now we are approaching separate shots already. I will go one by one and side by side quickly. So you can see some of the redness coming on, but you can usually happening with just a temporary swelling on that. And the second tip of today is if she has some of the complaints, oh my chick is so chubby or something, we can just fix them. So like a lattice making the over treatment, we can go for that with the approaches for this. So with the first more passes on here. It's almost a square kind of. And if you just pinch up like this, in opposite direction with a 90 degree direction, we can make a lattice approaches. It will make a more sharper and more like this. Okay. And we will move on to the second layer using the NF2. It's a 2 mm depth, so we will go for that. And this one is the same. This one is making same lines, but usually it is making a the tip size and the tip shape is more sharper. So if you are using the very small areas, usually it is quite useful to you. So we want a triangulation motion like this. First here in the visual area. How do you feel? 괜찮으세요? 네, 이렇게. Usually, there are two approaches using the smaller energies and the more passes, or you can use the higher energy with the smaller number of the passes. Usually, I like the higher energies for with a smaller number of the passes for the older patients or elderly patients, or the smaller energies with more passes to the younger patients. Because of the wrinkle depths and the wrinkle condensity and the intensity, maybe it can be reasonable approaches, but it depends on the skin condition of the face. And also, we are going to move on here for the focus range of the mandible contours here. Maybe your patient can be doing here or here or here. So whichever part of the mandibles have a dual lines, it is some of the focusing areas. And they not like a 4.5 millimeter transducer tips. It is quite easier to handle because it is designed for using the very thin area. Usually, most of the aesthetic part of the face, usually if you are approaching the wet filler dermis or dermal fat junctions, we have a 2 millimeter depth is quite the widely can be widely used for the multiple aesthetic parts or the cosmetic parts of the miniature of the face. Okay. So total numbers of the two shots will be around the 40 to 50. So maybe around the not the I mean the this way of the this way you can see that the lattice like motions that we are stacking up to the kind of coagulation joints. And now we are going to do some examples here. We prepared this different kind of injectables here. It is a L'Oreal fillers, and it is the thin, very thin, but the coherence of the filler is quite high. So it is a very good filler for you maintaining the shape or lines of the fillers. So we will use this for the lines here. So if you can close up, what you want is to use little bit smiling kind of lips here because we treated already with the tightening motion with the upward this kind of the factors we are designing. But if we can, if you're leaving these lip angles in the downward ways with the natural aging, it will be not matching. It will not match with this. So we will inject some of the fillers inside the angles. We have this kind of a little bit smiling, just but not awkward, just a little bit smiling face on the lips, and we will make a little bit prominent line here to make a balance for the ratio of the whole lip lengths. And now we are using the 28. Yes, 28 gauges of the camera here. So we need 25 gauges of the needles. Can you have 25 gauge needles? We have a boxes on here. So once again, if you have any kind of questions or if you have any kind of comments, please leave that little messages in the chat windows. So basically, we made a version for this. We make an injection point here. approaching here, then go here. You don't need to control the breathing because this is an entry point. You can make a puncture here. So in this kind of injection point, you can ask her. 이렇게 물어보실 수 있어요. 소리가 그렇죠. If you can see that this one is retracting angle is the only thing we are doing that. So we are making just 0.1 millimeter here. Okay. And now we're checking it from the front to see if we are making proper ways to that. And most importantly, we have to make a standard. 잠깐만 일어나 주세요. 좀 할까? 네, 잠시만요. I will show you
여기 한 번만
how we can change the angle. You can see we have a very few, a small amount of points here. You can see from the injection point, this one, the angular line is drawn down like this. But this way, you can see that the is something like this way. So because of the inversion of the angular lead line from here to here, this kind of things can happen. That's the mechanism of this kind of one-point angular lead correction. 그거 좀 보여주시겠어요? 네, 그래서 누워주시면 이거 종이 좀 잠깐 묻혀주고요. 네, 써보죠. 그다음에 and now we are gonna have this way with a line correction and another way continues here. So it will change like this and change like this because she have a very prominent and the clear lines of the filtrum and the upper lip portion, but lower lip portion, if we can make this just a little bit, it will make a more beautiful ratio in between the upper and the lower lips. So we will move on to the here from the lower. And then we are going to make a compensation here from the one thing from here and then the correction to the lips. Now we are going to move to the other side first and then go from there. I asked her if it was painful, but fortunately she answered no. From the top views, we have some of the drawing here, but not here. Maybe it can be from immediate contact to inside from the fiber fat portion or the reticular dermis here, but it should be maintained with a longer action of the macular regeneration. So this one is the sugar feel a little bit heat sensation here, but you could see from this way, this one is so it is better to have a little better to see what's happening. 저희 거울 좀 있어요. 저기 예, 그거 한번 보시죠. 한번 고개를 돌려가면서 요거를 한번 이제 톡톡한 여기를 이제 좋아요. Okay, 좋아요. So she is very satisfied with these contours.
compared to this contour. It's very, yeah, this is a happiest moment for the doctors for how this kind of work. So we'll go to the again a side by side treatment with 3 millimeter treatment here. Okay. Once again, this one is not a laser should be protected from any kind of laser the instrument for the eye protection, but if the patient is very unstable, if the patient is worried about that, using the eye shield is another good option. So in this question, you can see that here. We'll go to this way through and this way. So there are many ways to approach the mandibular angles. If you want to have a more sharper, more way to do, usually you can approach this angle and squeeze like that and make a pinching and along the side like this to protect the mandibular angles or any unwanted the uncomfortable feeling for the patients when we are touching the periosteum. But if we are making firm contact, not pressing down too much. Usually it is just it. Okay, already one pass. Going to that way. Usually, if you are making the DAO lines here, usually the DAO line of the margin of the DAO line is a quite good way to do that. And if you want to make an overlap, please make it clear after one pass if there is any kind of the damage is seen immediately from the overlap path. But usually okay. Okay. Again, the hand pace and the repetition rate is super fast. So usually when the numbing cream is going over, uh, before that is going over, you can just finish the treatment in time. Okay, so we reach it when around 60 to 70 lines here, and we will go to the lattice treatment here. Once again, if you are starting your practice, if you are not confident with your hand movement or if you're tired, maybe you can count how many lines you make in a certain distance. So usually when you make a lattice treatment, it can be also important because when we are now focusing on our treatment, sometimes we are doing the over treatment. Always under treatment is quite okay because if she's not satisfied, we can do more. But over treatment, we cannot overcome. Okay, 2 passes for the contour lines. Great. And we go to the MF2. Hand is here. There's more on here too. Here. Move on to the lattice slide. Usually 2 millimeter depth for the DAO under the DAO is quite good. So if you want to move to the more vertical treatment, it's quite okay. Or if you are going for the opposite or 90-degree angles on the vertical superficial wrinkles or hollow is quite also okay. But usually we are making the treatment over and over. And also is very good approaches if you are sliding down like this, if you are sliding like down like this, you can see that the how the wrinkle reacts or how the wrinkle is moving this here. So we are making the parallel direction in the opposite direction. And, this is the last pass for the pre-jaw wrinkles and laterally to the angular lips. 괜찮으시죠? 네. In Korean, are you okay? 그래서 괜찮으시죠? 괜찮으세요? Yeah. So we will do 2 more passes to the lateral treatment. The best way to have a satisfied contour correction is to make a map, on the patient face. And if you make the patient participate on the mapping, it is the best. So we can draw lines together on per face, so we can make a focus, and it is a really tailored and customized approaches for it. Okay, then. So from the start, we can see that the differences from this direction, and also on the front, and most importantly, to the patient. So we will go on to the another way to do that, but the last step, we are making the chin treatment and the lip treatment will make it perfect. So at this moment, maybe you can just compare here and here. Only changes, we didn't make an injection here. From this to this. Okay. 잘 다 닦아주시면 되고요. 거울 한번 보시겠어요, 수정 씨? 네. 그 나이는 깎은 거라고 표현하기 좀 무서운데. 오케이, 좋습니다. 네, 닦아 주시고. 자, 인젝터블을 좀 해야 될 거네. 다 끝났어요. 저희 주사는 없지. 아, 큰일 나죠. Now the ultra formal treatment is done in a very fast way. A patient have no difficulties in getting the treatment, and we are finishing the last touch of the treatment with the injectors. Okay. Okay. Firstly, we will have a more injection for local anesthesia here. Just 4 points. Here, maybe you can just make the pressure here. And a little bit upward, pressing down, and the line changes. Injection, not making contour changes. And make a puncture here at the very side. And injection to the point. because the breathing point is injection point. You can see the needle tip is here, and can you smile a bit? 살짝 웃어주실 수 있어요. And that's what we want for fraction. Very small amount, and not making any kind of foreign body sensation here. I can only feel if she is opening her mouth, but usually if it is anchored here in the angular lips, the downward is not good. So only here on this inverted is. 자, 이 사람 닫아볼게요. 아주 좋아요. 카메라 한번 클로즈업해서 위에서 한번 이렇게 찍어보시죠. So we will show you some of the close-up how we change the angular lip angles. Angular lip angle is quite hilarious to hear. 잠깐만 앉아보시겠어요? So with this small injection, the angular lip is from this line to this line. Because it was closed like this, but inverted like this. But the determining the proper amount of this injection is really a little bit consideration, a little bit experience for that. But now she has the naturally smile looking when she is having this kind of injection for that. 보라면 다시 보시겠어요? 처음 할게요. 그렇죠. 소리 이렇게 되면 약간 실망? 그냥 표정에서 살짝 이렇게 올라가요. 이 정도. 이렇게 되면 안 되는 거예요. Okay. Now we will she have a little bit the short chin here compared to this angle. So we will make the chin a little augmented like here. To decide whether we will go through down this way or front this way, we will make a choice. But from the lateral view, she has enough volume for that, but pinch it down here. So this mandibular angle on the point is the very best point, but we don't need any kind of things. The 2 points are remaining here and here and here, but usually this kind of a reaction is should be determined here first and here next, because we are lengthening this the chin a little bit. So ratio in between the upper lip and the lower lip and the chin will be changing. So after the injection, we go for that. The approaches can be done in a both way from the nose direction and this one in the opposite direction. Anything is available, but usually we are using different kinds of fillers here. 하늘색 하는 거 있어요. 딱딱하고 좀 오래 가는 게 좋아요? 아니면 좀 부드러운 게 좋아요? 그러면 어차피 입술 사야 되니까 제가 부드러운 거. I'm using the cannula injection and the needle injection together. So today we will go for the chin. We will make a from this direction because camera angle is much better here. So we'll make an injection here first. And this one is a little bit thicker and harder fillers. It is a different kind of number here. So we have a more higher G prime number. So we will go for this way with small puncture lines. really small. 이거 제가 했던 부분은 이거만 또 sorry, I forgot another point to you. It was just a study thing. Okay, I'll go for the needle injection here. Attention. You can touch the bone here. You can touch the bone and inject the filler gradually. This on the bone over the periosteum, not on the not in the subcutaneous fat tissues. Usually this was highly fibrous area. So if you are making the injection, on the fibrous area, sometimes the cobblestoning can be a little bit more. Always regurgitating to check when the filler is going inside. Usually this area has no variation of the vascularity, so it's quite the safer area when you are using the upper bone injection. But please be careful anytime. So now we are going to do the amount. Usually when it's located on the chin, she has a very soft skin here because of the cobblestoning, and you can see the mentalist muscle is quite small for the volume. So when in these cases, the molding is not always easy when you are making the injection. So please select the proper filler to make the for satisfied. I think the people we are injecting, asking her whether longer lasting hard filling is okay, or the little bit mid lasting or the mid hard kind of filling. Which one is better is upon the taste. Okay. First checking the pore ratio of the skin and the 좀더 이게 톡이 약간 이게 찢어졌죠. 네. 그래서 이제 입술을 여기 맞출 거예요. 약간 이렇게. So we are going to move faster a little bit. So we are going to the here, more injection here. And then the needle injection inside, just a little bit from the inside. You can see the lip is now a little bit bruised, but it is, we'll change the portion a little bit. Usually the ideal ratio between the upper and the lower lip is 1.6 to 1.5 to 1. The lower lip should be a little bit thicker than that. It is upon the taste. 잠깐만 눌러주시고, 제가 할게요. And now we have some of the injections here for the final touch and for here. to make the 2 points, maybe we can just approach here to here, but usually this angle is a little sensitive here, so we will make a mandibular angle downward here with a pinching up and pinching up and here, continue. Also here. And for smaller volumes. Okay. Now we have puncture, and this way we will use the burn technique with correction of this way. This one is using the triangular motion like this, so make it this kind of a burn region here. 우리가 조금만 더 해주시겠어요? So we can touch here and touch the end of the cannula and make a reverse to check. And then going for that kind of burn kind of treatment. So if you are just using this technique, usually it is making more natural way to have a volume replacement here. Usually this one is very thin and soft kind of fillers, but sometimes it is popping up. But don't worry about this because we are not using that much of the fillers inside. Just using the very small point. Then and from this function side, because we are running out of time, and we will just make a short finish from this here. Once again, we can just make a touch of the fingertips and going forward this kind of front injection usually you can just see that how we can handle this cannula promotion. So the most importantly, if you are using the not constant motion, it is not possible to make the proper injection same amount with this. So please check the speed and the amount of injected. Okay, great. So now we've finished our treatment here. Let me check one by one. We firstly treated the contouring with the ultra 3 and for the lines and the lattice treatment for this drooling area. And with this volume injection, a small the upper dermal injection, we use this kind of the vertical pre-jaw lines corrected. And for the angular lips, we have a smiling the angles of the changes. Also, we changed these lines in the lip to make a more better ratio for that. And finally, for the contouring with the Photoshop images, we made the chain augmentation. So with this kind of a demand, usually we can make more younger and sharper looking patient. But once again, it should be designed by the doctor and the patient together on the patient need. So thank you for the watching of hands-on, and we will move on to the question and answer session. 고맙습니다. 고생하셨어요. 네. 한번 보라는 거죠. 한번 주세요. 15분 전. So now we have 10 to 15 minutes of the Q&A session. So we will go for any kind of questions and comments will be appreciated. So first, okay. We have the participants and the audiences from Spain and Italy and Thailand, Saudi Cup, and okay. So first question was, what is the recommended energy and pitch from Emma? Usually we are using the recommended guidelines of 0.2 to 0.4 joules for the 2 millimeter depth of the MP2 transducer, and the 0.5 to 0.7 joule for the 3 millimeter depth. But it is upon the how we have how much of the laxity, how severe the laxity is. So we can just usually pitch we are using the standard pitch 1 to 1.5 millimeter pitches. And what about the buttocks and threads question? What about the buttocks and threads in the same session like fillers now? It's quite good because we are making the different kind of mechanism with the buttocks and the threads lift at the same time. But the most importantly, if you are using the multiple layers, layer by layer approach is quite important. For example, if you are using the same amount of the lattice DVDs and the lattice augmentation of the threads, over inflammation on the side. So sometimes it will not change the contour. It will make a lot of the swelling inside. So my recommendation is if you're going for the deeper way with the thread lifting is quite good. And then for that region, firstly with the EBDs like a HIFU and Then we can just go for the thread lift in the deeper portion, and any kind of augmentation on it is quite good. So I think the layer by layer from the deep to the superficial, any kind of combination is acceptable. And next question is why 4.5 millimeter cartridge isn't suitable for the test treatment? Because we have the 4 to 4.5 millimeter using the SMAS approaches here. Usually, upon this kind of parotid gland and the whole lines from the temporalis to the whole SMAS treatment, 4 to 4.5 millimeter approach is still very, very useful and very powerful approaches. But in contouring the perioral area, usually 4.5 millimeter approaches is firstly, if she has some protruded teeth or other things, sometimes it is very uncomfortable. So, firstly, and secondly, usually if the patient skin, if you pinch down, there are some people that needs a 4.5 millimeter depths on the perioral area. Sometimes they do, but usually most of the younger people with a 30 or to late 20 to the late 30 ages, we don't need that kind of depth. So at first, we only used 4 to 4.5 millimeter because the SMAS lifting, the SMAS targeted treatment. But now we have a multiple choice and options to approach the different kind of depth. So we can make a three-dimensional contracture. We can make a three-dimensional tightening for each different aesthetic or cosmetic part. So that's my answer. So we can use the 4.5, but not this treatment. And the next question is, hello, about the energy use treatment. Oh, this one is 7. Okay. Some doctors tend to use the 0.7 to 0.8 or even more higher energies for that. Yes, we can use the higher energy, but as we discussed earlier in this treatment sessions, the treatment can be chosen with a higher energy, the lower number of passes, or lower energy and then more the number of the passes. So it is upon the how we can approach. If she is over 50 years old, if she is a lactive 50% more than the younger people, maybe we can use the higher energy, but we need to focus on the more comfortable treatment with the local anesthesia or other kind of a pain relief. So it is upon the choice. Usually, the lower dermis and the dermal fat junction targeted treatment, usually we don't need that kind of higher energies. But if you are making the more contour oriented or deeper portion of the SMAS treatment, yes, you're right. You can just use the higher energies on the more fat and to draw the patient to them. 0.8 and 3 millimeter depths, it depends. You can use that. 4.5 is quite good. Yeah. So thank you for every questions and the things, and you can see that this combination option is very good, and usually the compensating any kind of patient demands, not using much of the pillars and much of the injections, but based on the tightening procedure, you can just add some of the treatment that just make it perfect. So another question, the last question is, what type of the mouth shape is suitable for this technique? I think the more hypnotic, like a chin retraction or the type 2 malocclusion, usually they have more problems on the perioral aging than malocclusion type 3 or the protruded chin. So I think that kind of a mouth type is more suitable. And if you are augmenting the chin and augmenting the lips, usually the thinner lips and the kind of area, always there can be helpful for that. Does the field have to question? Does the field have to be this blend only? No. You can use any kind of fillers that you are using the lips. But if you are using too hard fillers for the uh, perioral or subdural area, sometimes the patient can feel a little bit discomfort because if she or he has a much more tendency to move more. So that is the key of the choosing the fillers. And question, can I use the 1.5 millimeter and really give the different result? I think it depends on the skin thickness. If you're using the very, very thin skin, the very, very thin cutaneous lip area, maybe you can use the 1.5. How to adjust, question, how to adjust the energy and how many shots to apply? I used totally around the 300 shots, combining all the lattice treatment and all the line treatment, but it depends on how big the face are and how big the face is or how dull the situation is severe. How the patient take question, how the patient take care to themselves and how long they can see the result something changes. Usually, this combination, the beauty of this combination options, you can see the result immediately with the hypo-immediate reaction, also with the injection together. And usually longer last than the other kind of treatment. So usually you can expect the degradation of the fillers and the hypo the treatment, ultra-formal treatment for the lasting months to year. But anyway, it can be different. It can be changed with the lifestyle changes or other kind of habits. But usually for the ages that we treated today, usually we are expecting to the several months to from the 6 to 9 to over a year. And the last question is, someone's client complains about the tingling of the tongue for about a week after doing face tightening. I used 4.5 and 3 and 1.5. Do you recommend another hypo treatment for the patient? It's from Myanmar, and I think with this kind of information, I cannot describe exactly which kind of a nerve damage or nerve stimulation can be done. Usually the tingling of the tongue can be provoked with a multiple kind of innovation treatment, but usually the sensation changes goes away. Everybody knows that, we all know that. So if the patient is not feeling any kind of taste, it's a huge problem, but just the tingling, it goes away in weeks. But if you are trying to do any another hypo treatment for the patient, I recommend at least 3 months later after the tingling sensation is gone, because usually with healthy people with the innervation and the nerve sheath damage needs months to be recovered. So usually the first thing is a patient rapport in between the doctors, and the second thing is to make a safer treatment in any kind of a risk that we can avoid. It is better to have enough kind of the duration, but basically you can do that again after enough kind of intervals. That's my answer. Okay, thank you for all the comments and all the questions from around the world. Thank you for your precious time here for the webinar. And I hope you enjoy this, and I hope really it will be helpful to your practice and it will achieve a very good result for your patients. Thank you, and I hope that we can join together offline and online soon. One last comment for that. Yeah, this one is for the Thailand doctors. We have another kind of event after this session, so we will toss the whole kind of the operation to the Thailand here from now on. So please be seated and please be tuned, stay tuned for the Thailand event. And thank you, and hope to see you soon. Bye-bye.